Hello, Internet! It's the TARDIstyle talk for New Earth. I'm Lee, as you probably know, and with me today I have...
Desmond.
Sam. Mary.
So yes, New Earth. Thoughts, questions, concerns, first reactions, even though it's not the first time you've seen this.
I'm going to go and I say I like the people farming that they have going on. I mean, I don't like it in it's people suffering. I mean, I like from a scientist point of view, that's cool. They've got their own human disease farm.
Okay, I always have to ask the question of Chip's getting chased down by these highly diseased people that were stored in these pods that injected them with diseases. And to get away from them, to save himself, he goes into the pods that inject the diseases. Yet he remains undiseased.
The system is short-circuited. That's how the locks all open.
Did it short-circuit the whole machine, or did it just undo the locks? Which leads me to another question of, did they really design that machine so poorly that when one person punched something, every of the thousands of doors opened? That seems like a really flawed design.
They're cats.
I was about to say they're nuns. Wait, we're both right. And
they're even cat nuns!
Nurses! Cat nun nurses, criminals.
Wouldn't screw that up.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. We're not talking about that one.
I was going to say, as a scientist with ethical concerns, the human farm is both equally interesting and terrifying in a way that I hope that friends of mine in the same or similar majors have expressed similar desires for ways to manage disease and population. And that terrifies me on a very deep and meaningful level.
Well, they're clones, and this raises the always question of how much are clones human? Do they have sentience? Do they have a consciousness?
Well, clearly they had sentience and conscience.
Thought, but we don't really know what makes humans humans. Are we going to call it a soul? Because do they have a soul? Is it not a soul what makes humans humans? So really, what degree of humanity do they have?
Well, they were obviously quite people-y because, like, they're new. They're like a new species of people.
Well, it's been shown that they have clear motor brain functions, but how far does that go?
They constructed an argument.
They did. They had a very good moral. There was a moral argument at that, might I add. Moral arguments.
Their argument was.
It seemed like they had a clear moral compass than some people.
They seem to hive mind.
Well,
yeah.
Well, at least they started that way. They were all plugged into the machine. And I think that's an interesting start to a species that will now begin to differentiate.
It would be interesting. It would have been interesting if they had done a follow-up on that.
Yeah, seeing the results of these new strain of humans.
Although, next time we see New Earth... Oh.
Yeah, they're that.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Well, next time we see New Earth, everyone except for the people in the highway are dead. So, the question, did they continue on?
Well, they might be in the highway.
Or are they, on the highway? Are they some
I'm sure there's,
some
highway? Descendants in the highway, if not some people. Because there's a bunch. There's, easily, 2,000 people it looked like in there.
Yeah. Moving on to more ethical, or I guess to analyze the different ethics presented by the two parties, because there's often two parties in Doctor Who.
Yes.
Usually, we are presented with the antagonist's point of view, ethically and morally, and then the Doctor usually acts as a counterpoint to it. And because this is somewhat of a Hawthorne-style morality play, the Doctor usually wins out. And so the point of view presented by the sister, cat, nun, nurse, criminal
person,
people,
those,
is that these are just meat. We have living meats that we infect to understand and make medicine for things that are not meat. The thing is that this argument of degrading degrading human beings has existed since regular Earth. In fact, coming off of what was probably the most out of left field class ever, a History 104 course I'm taking currently, the argument was made that savagery made the Indians and African Americans less than human, that they didn't have the same thing that they needed to in order to possess all the rights and responsibilities of the white settlers.
We know where that led to.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't believe I can see much difference in this. Greater good or not, you cannot simply insist that a subsection of people and we see that they know that they're expressing some kind of sentience. You cannot say that a subsection of people kept uneducated in the dark in total suffering have had means to demonstrate their sentience and prove their worth as humans.
So what are you arguing for?
I
or
guess I've
against
already gone to the doctor side because I can never see myself agreeing with these nurses, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I think I'm taking some moral high ground.
No, I'm siding with you on this.
Maybe if we saw all those awful, terrible diseases, we would have to make hard choices too. Though I'd imagine there all are alternatives. There are always alternatives.
Well, we also have to consider the fact that the diseases they're curing is like 1,000 diseases in one person. So even if like some other person was dying, the death wouldn't be as horrific because they'd be dying of one disease, whereas these people live their existence in like 1,000 diseases.
Also, my question is, why do we need so many of them?
Exactly. There's a whole universe out there.
And what differentiates an actual slab of meat? Like, how about we do everything but brain, and then one with a brain with no other connections?
They did say they tested that and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I bet it just wasn't as efficient as well.
That's exactly what they said, that it took too long.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes you have to wait.
And sometimes there's diseases that attack the brain.
And if I want money, going out and robbing a bank is quicker, doesn't make it better.
Honestly, well, I think is like, remember how he said that the crest of the moon was the universal sign for hospital? Well, that means they are in fact commuting, and they probably still have scientific medical journals out there. And there are obviously more than that one hospital.
Yeah.
Like, why can't, it's like, yes, your hospital could be very specific, like what we do now, we have, hospital specific for cancer, like this hospital over here is specific for this kind of, like, type of cancer, or this, like, hospital for this type of disease. Like, wouldn't, like, the hospital, like, that way, like, you could focus on this, but then if you need information or help on this certain disease, you can contact another hospital, I don't know, like 3 planets over, and ask for their help.
And now I'm not saying that.
I'm sorry, I want to clarify. Like, what point are you getting at?
I'll say it just kind of seems like they went more towards the cruel aspect than the actual efficient. Yes, it's like.
So you're saying that it would be more efficient and more, like they should concentrate their resources on. They should specialize, basically.
If they specialize, it wouldn't be more, I guess, I don't know the word humane, even though it doesn't apply, but they wouldn't have to go towards.
Why doesn't it apply? Because they're cats?
Because if you're one disease or 1,000, it doesn't matter. You're forcibly housing, imprisoning, and harming sentient beings against their will. Also,
it appeared like they didn't. The nurses did not believe that they were sentient.
Yes, and just as much as every single Prospero that came over here to call the Native Americans Caliban doesn't mean there really were.
Can I ask another technical question?
Yes.
Because I'm really enjoying the technical questions. How did these people learn how to speak and, for that matter, walk?
I think it sounded like one of the things that they were like listening to the speech of the nuns. And
To bring up something similar to this, I don't know if anyone knows the Mass Effect universe.
Trying to.
Well, put it this way: there's a race called the Krogans. They have a genophage. It's causing them to not gain population, not lose population, but they think they're losing population.
Mm-hmm.
This one guy builds a bunch of tanks and starts growing tank-born Krogan.
As one does.
And the way he teaches them is just by exposing them to his thoughts, his actions, and they all grow up listening to the voice
Like
of
that's
the
how
tank.
people learn from interacting with others.
That's
My
how
point
I
is,
imagine
these people
it.
are like locked in these little cells.
well, they seem to have like a hive mind, and they also like when you saw them walk, they weren't like walking like you and I walk. They're kind of like
They have
teetering.
like complete and total atrophy of all of their muscles.
Yes,
But at
but
the same time, how
it's
quickly are
science
they
fiction.
grown?
Exactly.
They could be grown fully grown.
Now I'm seriously curious about that.
I would like to say that this is one of those times where we must remember that Doctor Who is very, very close on the line between very, very high science fantasy and actual science fiction. It's very close. Because we don't have good explanations for a lot of the science used.
Mhm.
What we do know is that it's mostly coherent so long as we stay within the bounds of the story.
Exactly.
And I think that's the only thing, it's the soft requirement for science fiction. It's not the hard one. The hard one would be detailed explanations of everything, which is hard, and we'd have like infinite jest-sized books for script.
I would approve of this.
You would read Infinite Jest over and over and over again.
Yes.
I think Like, you needed to write a letter to David Foster Wallace so he knew that he had at least one real true fan.
I would do it because that would be awesome.
I'm digressing. The
Yes.
main point I'm trying to make is with those Krogan is that they sort of knew each other, and they also sort of knew that the voice in the tank was someone. And that's how they learned. They were forcibly taught things, but they also picked up things. Like, they knew that Orkir was disappointed with all of them because none of them were true Krogan. In the same way, this hive mind that might have existed could also have picked up speech from them, like those nurses talking in front of it. They opened it and were talking at that thing in the tank. I guess the person in that tank, in the thing. Well, I guess they would call it a thing. But the point is, their exposure, say one learns a few words, it goes to the whole hive mind. That one dies, new one comes up, learns something different, gets to see someone walking around. The hive mind like that would get smarter over time, and it seems like they've been doing it for quite a while.
That is true.
And argument. Yeah, so you can even say that probably some of the nurses had like moral arguments among themselves.
We know
You know
at least
what?
one did.
I just got a thing of, I forget the word. It's like, I just got some nice drywall patcher and just patched over that plot hole.
Yeah, there you go.
Right there. Okay. My question to the three
Some
of you.
plaster.
Yeah, plaster. There's a good word. My question to the three of you is, if you were presented a whole new race or sub-race of humans that didn't have education, that didn't know who they were, that didn't even have names, what do you do?
Well, they said at the end that all new life forms would be, what was it, cataloged and something else?
Yeah. I think the best option would be some sort of institution, sort of like a mental asylum.
I feel like you're getting really,
No.
really politically incorrect here.
I'm trying to think of the proper term for it.
Well, no, there could be some sort of
I'm
rehabilitation.
going
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's
I'm
better.
going somewhere like that's, I don't mean like literally a mental asylum. I mean something like that. Something
I
where
think
they can, like,
Desmond
learn
threw
to
out the word
facilitate-
Rehabilitation.
Yeah, rehabilitation.
That's more politically
Not
correct.
good words. Anyway.
Readjustment? I
I'm
don't.
trying to find
No,
a
that's
proper
that's
word
more
for
like
it.
a place.
Anyway,
Yeah.
somewhere where they can like go and they don't necessarily need. I think maybe putting them in with regular population right away would be a bad idea because they wouldn't be able to
Slow
adapt
adjustment.
quickly to that. So I think they would need to like go somewhere where they could just like learn how to society,
person.
like how to become part of society, and then
How to
well
people.
they would need to know how to become part of this.
Yeah, I'd say
I think
integrate.
that's fair.
How much, like how much is this
Education.
dollar worth?
I would say like maybe just like introduce them, like slowly introduce them to the world, but then allow them to choose what they want to do.
Well,
Like,
yeah, no, I'm just like teach them like this is money, this is how money works, this is food because they've been like tube fed.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is food, this is how you get food,
It
this
would
is
be
how you get
incredibly slow
education,
going.
how you get a home. See, but the thing is, it's you just want to work up to next generation because once you get into next generation, then
It's a
they're
lot
being
easier.
raised into that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so really the main concern is just getting to next generation.
The last thing I want to say about this episode is that to encapsulate briefly the two different moral arguments, the one presented by the nurse, cat, nun,
person.
criminal
Sibylline sisterhood?
persons.
They're not Sibylline.
They're not.
No, Sisters of Plenitude. Sibylline
What was
is.
the sibylline?
Sibylline
is
is
that
from.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shame on you.
I'm ashamed.
Point being,
Now.
Dishonor on your cow.
hey, Sibylline's a pretty cool goddess. Point
Yeah.
is that the nurses operated under a consequentialist moral theory. They believe
Consequentialist moral theory.
they believed that their actions would be judged on the whole as good,
The means justify the end
then
justifies
justify the means.
Like, don't look at the small picture,
But
look at the big picture.
in an extreme scale,
I-
these vat of people to them, compared to the entire galaxy cured eventually, to them, that was worth it. But one of the things the consequentialist fails to recognize is that often they must conceal their actions.
Can I? It's not the entire galaxy being cured, though. This has been clearly stated that these diseases are for humans. They're only curing humans. They're not,
Yeah,
it's
but
not like
there's
they're
a
curing
lot of
all
humans.
alien species. They're just
Humanoid.
curing humans.
Yeah, humanoid.
There's a lot of
Human
humanoid.
subspecies, human mixed species. Anything you want, like.
As Cassandra put it, we're all a bunch of beauties at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that's partially human would be the only ones that would be capable of getting.
Like I said, humanoids, they've all mixed together, which means there are a lot of diseases that have adapted fixed.
But you also have to ask, if a human is mixed with another species, would they have different immunities to these humanoid diseases?
They might, but every person's different. They have
You
different
do realize
ancestry.
I don't have that much plaster for this particular episode, right?
I'm just curious.
There's a light covering where you can poke a finger through and
Yeah.
it will break
Just
it.
curious.
The point, continuing what I was going to say. The problem with consequentialist moral theory is that often they conceal their actions that are unfavorable because upon exposure to greater society, these actions are unacceptable. Often those who justify their morals using consequentialist theory are afraid of people knowing the truth, just as these cat nuns are. And the reason they're afraid of people knowing the truth is because most people do not hold consequentialist moral theory. They hold what the doctor does. A closer to deontological moral theory.
I'm sorry, can you reword that? Like say it again.
The doctor is a deontological moralist.
What, deontological?
It means that there are certain imperatives, certain commands, certain things one does not do or does do in order to be moral. There are higher values beyond just experience and actions, and that our attitudes and our personal investment in these higher power, be it religion, be it just an idea of an
There's a
ethical
line
code.
you don't
There's an
cross.
ideal you try to uphold, and consequentialists tend to completely disagree. That they see the action as important. And in the end, the actions were important. Their concealment led to their imprisonment. And their actions led them to be, instead of being viewed as a society of healers, as a society of criminals and murderers. I think the truth is just as plain as them being in their jail cells now.
Yeah, there's no way I can doubt that.
Yeah, I have no. I was internet. I was just sick for like a week, so I'm a little off.
So this is the time and relative dimension in Desmond podcast this week, I guess. But does that mean I can say, I think it's time to say good night, Internet?
Is it? Does anyone else have
Does
any
anyone
other
else?
comments?
No. All my comments are for Tooth and Claw next week.
Yeah, Tooth and Claw, get hype.
All of my thoughts are still lost in semantics of this universe.
You
I'm
tripped
so
and
curious
fell into a
about-
plot hole, and we're still not sure where you
They're
are.
not plot holes. I'm just really curious about the nitty-gritty details
may
of
or
this
may not be.
The
episode.
plot hole was the rabbit hole to plot land and
And I'm
semantics.
just like,
Yeah, and now your name is
way
Alice.
down there.
Congratulations.
I'm so far down there that I am
Alice in
possibly
Plotland.
one of the queens now.
Yeah, you're so far down there. You're past the Rainbow Bridge.
Am I now the Mad Hatter?
Yes.
Yes, you're down there.
Okay.
On that note, everyone say goodbye to the internet.
Good night,
Bye.
Internet.
Good night. Sleep tight.
Good
Don't let
night.
the frostbite bite.